I think it's finally time that I do their top 5 Dragon Ball Sagas. And this is not just Dragon Ball Z, it's encompassing all of Dragon Ball from the original to Z to GT to Super. I'm not including Daima just yet because it's not concluded yet, but we're ranking the top 5 sagas. Number 5. This one might be a little cheating, but I'm kind of lumping them up together. It's going to be the King Piccolo and Piccolo Jr. arcs from the original Dragon Ball. I feel like this is where Dragon Ball really came into its own, found its footing. It became a little bit more serious. Death was a thing. The villains were world-ending threats. And this season, specifically this saga, was really the blueprint on which other sagas built themselves upon. It was the introduction of a world-threatening villain in King Piccolo. You had the different types of transformations, the near deaths in here, everybody teaming up to fight a common cause, and Goku triumphing at the very end. There was an epic beam struggle. There was a lot of things to appreciate about it, and original Dragon Ball is meant to be watched, but even if you don't, it does lead into what becomes Dragon Ball's greatest magnum opus. Number 4. This might be controversial, but it's going to be the Saiyan saga. Again, this saga expanded the Dragon Ball world so much. It went from being just about a young boy living in the jungle to a galactic threat invading Earth, and then there being intergalactic species, that Goku is not just a human or a monkey man. He is a part of a Saiyan race. We are introduced to the Saiyans, Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa. Some of the coolest fights happen in here. The Z Fighters teaming up was brilliant. The hopelessness that we felt throughout this saga, the immensely tear-jerking moment of Piccolo's sacrifice for Gohan. There is a lot to appreciate about this arc. It really made a lot of us Dragon Ball fans because it hit the ground running, and this is basically what we in the States started off with, and it just encaptured a whole generation. Number 3, this is purely from a Dragon Ball fan perspective and a fan of just cool shonen parodies and fighting, humor, action, and great storytelling. It's gonna be the Tournament of Power. I know it's a little controversial, but I enjoy Tournament of Power. I thought that was some of the best Dragon Ball content we've received in years. We had some of the coolest fight sequences. Ultra Instinct Goku was kind of like seeing Super Saiyan for the first time. It took over the internet. It became a whole meme, and it's got to see all sorts of different powers, characters, unique designs that we hadn't seen in Dragon Ball in such a long time. It introduced one of my favorite side characters in Dragon Ball, Brienne. There is just so much that I enjoyed about the Tournament of Power, the teams, everybody teaming up and fighting a common threat. Old people coming back like Master Roshi and them showing what they got. I mean, they did a couple people dirty like Krillin and Tien, but other people got to shine, like I said, with Roshi, Android 18, Piccolo, and Gohan. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a Goku show, but it was still spectacular to watch. Some of the best fun fight sequence, humor, action, everything was captured in there. And then some of the best speeches. Vegeta had some really standout moments in there. Number 2, it's going to be the Android Saga. I think Android Saga was like the culmination of what Dragon Ball was going for, especially with starting from Z, where it was supposed to end off with passing the torch to Gohan. The fights were great. The introduction of the androids was terrifying to see somebody that terrifying. The reveal of Trunks, Frieza coming back and being such a big threat, and Trunks just wiping him out like nothing, and then you find out that he's Vegeta, and Bulma's Piccolo getting a chance to shine. You get of the other Z Fighters getting chances to shine. It was just a great culmination. It was the last time all the characters were relevant until, like I said, Tournament of Power. And then you get like that epic showdown between Gohan and Cell. And Gohan stands still ride high for Gohan. And I love Gohan, and I love seeing that Beast Gohan is a thing and that he's actually becoming relevant again. And, you know, the Tournament of Power kind of set that up for. And the number 1 arc of Dragon Ball is and always will be the Namek Saga with the Frieza Saga. This took us off of Earth, it expanded the worlds. We got to learn more about the Namekians, about Piccolo, where he came from, the bigger and badder threats throughout the universe, the history behind the Saiyans and what happened to them, the legacy of the legendary Super Saiyan cat and mouse game that we got to experience with Gohan and Krillin trying to get the Dragon Balls, and there being a constant threat always looming. Vegeta's bid for power in this season while he was trying to become a Super Saiyan. And then ultimately the greatest fight in anime history, Frieza versus Goku, and Frieza being one of the most iconic, if not the iconic villain of shonen anime of all time. And then we got what is probably the greatest transformation of any anime, any show of all time, the Super Saiyan. You got it, hints sprinkled throughout the season, and then it finally culminated into this really epic reveal, and Goku just dominating what seemed like an unstoppable force. It's just an arc that had pretty much everything in it. Had great thrills, had humor, it had action, it had almost all the characters still being relevant. I mean, not as much as in the Android Saga, but it felt like a bigger story. It felt like a galactic threat. And ultimately, it's what we as Dragon Ball fans remember and hold really close and dear. And it was just Toriyama with his peak story writing.